People of Alabama, how do you deal with the endless stream of incest jokes you must get when people hear you are from Alabama? Nothing they can say will ever take the joy out of my sister being pregnant. Can't wait to be a dad. Uncle Daddy say to not pay attention to dem folk. I just think to myself, it could be worse. This could be Florida. What do you call perspiration from sex in Alabama? Relative humidity. I usually respond with, wanna be my cousin for a few days. It usually ends up with me getting weird looks, but it's hilarious. Roll over and tell my wife. But she probably wouldn't get it anyways. Mom and dad always said I was the smarter one. To clarify, Arkansas actually has the highest incest rate. Alabama isn't in the top 5. I'm not from there, but I have family that is. So I get a lot of jokes about it. I usually reply with, yeah, probably based on what I've seen. The best Alabama incest joke I ever heard was told to me by an Alabama native. We were both living in North Carolina at the time, but I'm from New York. Guy had a great sense of humor. He introduced himself to me by saying I'm from Alabama, the only place you go to family reunions to pick up chicks. He followed that with telling me all his friends back home started calling him a Yankee because he moved to North Carolina. I just introduced my wife as my sister mother. It's gotten a lot of funny looks and it's great. Doesn't bother me. I'm a recent transplant from Alabama to Miami. I get them all the time. Incest jokes, farm boy jokes, etc. I can dish it out too and know how to let it roll off. My colleagues, not from Bama, ask about it. It either give them the simple, incest is wincest, or just say, my cousins are just so hot. It's not incest, unless you do it the way God intended. That's why my mom has always said I'm the smart one of the family. You gotta use the poop hole loophole. It's just a joke. No one has ever actually thought I was in a relationship with my brother. Just like Utah and Florida commonly get 4 things. It's a stereotype for a reason. Incest does happen though. It's looked down upon, but it happens. It just doesn't get talked about except in hushed tones. Although I can't imagine it's at a rate any more common than any other state. But Alabamians do say roll tide / war eagle all the time. If you are born in Alabama, get married in Alabama, and move to Georgia, and get a divorce, are you still brother and sister? This is something I struggle with a lot at school, work, etc. I usually don't get offended by things, but after being asked if you F your cousin, every time you mention your home state you get tired of it. If you are wondering, I moved to Illinois, which has same reported incest cases as Alabama. Thanks for letting me vent. I go to UA and can say that the campus is not like that at all. Most people here don't even have southern accents, as around 50% or so are from out of state. It's also a much better school than what stereotypes would have you believe, and I love it here. While I'm not from Alabama, my mom was born here. Her family was relatively well off and has been 4 generations. No incest whatsoever. The incest, however, happened on my dad's side. He did some research and found 2 different cases of first cousins marrying first cousins, and considering they come from a microscopic town, who knows what else has gone on, although it's nowhere close to the Spanish Habsburgs, so we are fine. They are not from Alabama. Regardless, I have a hella dark sense of humor, so I make most of the Alabama incest jokes followed by a hearty roll damn tide. I'm from Stearns County, Minnesota. We are the Alabama of Minnesota, and get picked on by the neighboring counties for being full of inbred rednecks. Sad part is that it's true. Go up to the grandparents and greet grandparents, and you'll find sibling and cousin marriages are common. The area was only settled by a few families up until the 1900s, and so there wasn't really a lot of options. The unofficial county saying is you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Whitcomb, because their family is so prolific and accident prone. Smart does not run in the family. You get used to it. I'm from the most backwards place in Alabama. My accent is so thick you probably won't be able to understand a word I say. But you just get used to it. Folks always say that we are dumb, ignorant, and just the worst you can expect. There's people like that everywhere, and there's plenty of intelligent and well-informed people everywhere too. But at the end of the day, I just shrug it off. A man walks into a store and says his sister is pregnant. Everyone cheers. Then he says he is going to be a dad. Lived there for 39 years. Only incest jokes I heard were from me. Now I live in Kentucky and all I ever hear is, "Oh, you mean Kentucky?" Never thought I'd be tired of incest jokes, but man oh man. Here's joke about Alabama. Considers it seriously for a second. I mean, yeah, that probably happens. I think it's funny mostly, just with any joke, it can lose its humor when you hear the same thing 10 million times. But hey, gotta keep a good sense of humor. I think it's funny, because honestly Alabama is kind of a hole, some good aspects for sure, but I haven't lived there in 8 years or so for a reason. But a second layer of unintentional humor to me is I've honestly lived around way more redneck types here in Colorado acting so trashy than anywhere in AL. Granted I lived in the northern, more well-educated part of AL, so I can't really account for the rest of the state, but I tend to chuckle a bit. Can totally confirm that Florida absolutely deserves the memes. Logic, there's good and bad parts about living everywhere. We are all people. Do miss that $3BR/$400 a month rent at times, though. We laugh because we know some of them are true. Even I have 2 cousins who are also first cousins who married each other and had 4 kids. The kids turned out normal, but my cousins are no longer married. Also trying to explain how myself and my cousin Jay are the youngest grandchildren on both sides of my family, because after my parents married, my mom's brother married my dad's sister. I'm double related to their 6 children. There was no incest there, but it sure sounds like it when you try and explain it. I'm from Alabama and finally moved a couple years ago. The best thing ever was seeing how Roll Tide went from a local annoying greeting of the collective hive mind to the incest slogan of the internet. People worship football almost more than Jesus in that state. I'm from West Virginia and we get the same stuff. We also get people who don't know we aren't a state. I've heard. How far are you from Richmond? A ton. Not from Alabama, but I have plenty of family there from my mother's side, and no, my dad isn't her cousin or anything like that. Even though I haven't been there in years, I consistently say stuff like, my mom's from Alabama, so I guess I'm related to the entire state lol. Truth is I don't know if there's any incest going on in my family at all, even if I have more cousins than I can count. I live in Mississippi, not Alabama, but we get the same amount of jokes, but basically just poke fun at other states' drug and debt problems and they kinda look at you like you offended them. The South can clap back to lol. I'm a transplant from AL to Central Pennsylvania. My wife and I still get made fun of at work, even though we are in goddamn Pennsylvania. My friend once had a friend from Alabama, but he harrowed him with so many incest jokes he stopped being friends with him. My wife was born in Alabama and lived there until she was 15, and she usually just takes it in stride and blows it off. The only 2 times I actually remember her responding to a comment were, once, a guy I knew, who has issues of his own, shouldn't be talking anyway, and she is not fond of, asked her if she had ever killed anyone in her family. She looked at him, smiled, and said, "No, my family quit inbreeding about 3 generations back, but looking at you with your lazy eye, sloped forehead, buck teeth and hair lip, you might want to warn your Kentucky-born and raised family that they should probably slow that down soon." The other time, after my brother told his girlfriend that my wife was originally from Alabama, his girlfriend, very jokingly, said, "Oh, you're one of those cousin king types?" My wife just said, "Only once, but she was my second cousin, so it's totally okay." She was visiting from West Virginia. We were both curious. Only happened the one time last Saturday. Not from Alabama, but most of my family is from the Alabama/Mississippi/Louisiana/Texas area currently, so generally people do tell me a lot of jokes about incest, and I don't deal with it. It humors me. In fact, my maternal grandfather actually was inbred. His grandparents were first cousins. It gets irritating pretty fast. I was telling my girlfriend the other day, I said, "Ma, when are these people going to stop with these silly incest jokes?" She just looked hurt and said, "I just don't know, son. It's terrible. Our only upside is it does breed some decent football players." As someone who is from the south, I love the way that the blame gets passed around down here. People from other parts of the country like to lump these stereotypes on southerners in general, but here in Georgia we are quick to point out that the blame really lies with Alabama. Alabama probably passes that blame on to Kentucky, and Kentucky to West Virginia maybe. West Virginia then takes that blame and says, so what? The government took her baby, want some pills? Every time I tell someone that I'm from Alabama, they instantaneously bring up an incest joke. I can't bear the number of immature people out there, and you won't believe the looks I got when I proposed to the love of my life at a public restaurant. I mean, what's wrong with falling in love with someone you know so darn well and love everything about them? My wife and I grew up together and have been together for so long. In fact, we even shared the same womb. We have so many similarities. My wife and I are happily married now, and I think no one should judge us. We have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and I'm the happiest being able to take care of my family. I love my wife, my queen, my twin sister. We just enjoy the better food, shorter winters, great football, lower taxes, less crowded beaches, awesome music, nearly year-round golf, and low cost of living. Sticks and stones love. You know how people say, people portray me as such, might as well show them what they assume of me? I know South love to do that, like they are proving someone wrong. Not originally from there, but have family that lives there, and I grew up elsewhere in the South. We all made stupid jokes about the reason why half of my family is stupid is because there has to be a few brother husbands in our family. Did an incestory thing and found out that one of my distant aunts married her first cousin, and now it isn't funny anymore. Honestly, we have one county in my area that we make fun of for it in particular, so I like to tell myself those jokes are targeted at that county as well. I know in reality they ain't. We ignore it. As with most stereotypes, there's just enough supporting evidence to make it so. Best friend's mom married twice, her last name never changed, married a cousin, and when he died married his brother. I laugh and tell them about my aunt and uncle that met at their cousin's funeral. It really doesn't help that their kids fit the inbred stereotype. To be fair, my great-grandparents were all from huge agricultural families, and there are literal hundreds of living descendants of that generation. I just joke that I won't date anyone from my part of the state or with certain surnames. While I myself am from West Virginia, I do live in the rural part, so these here jokes about us country boys screwing our own can be a bit offensive. Does that mean we can't partake in the fun it with a few comebacks of our own? No, you all can make all the jokes you want, but some of us take pride in our family, but not so much that we'd knock 'em up. We might try and knock each other's teeth once in a while, but nothing like the Hatfields and McCoys. We are just good old boys and girls. I just take a jab at Georgia or Mississippi, but really, I just brush it off. I've never met anyone who even knows anyone who has been involved in incest. We just have racists and homophobes here, very little incest. I'm from Oklahoma. I hear more about Arkansas being more prone to incest relationships. I actually had a friend whose cousin was the product of such a relationship. Honestly, see it a lot here too. It's sad the disabilities they are more likely to face. Probably the same way I do with Californian jokes living in Arizona. I somehow make it selfishly about myself. I go get gourmet tacos, drink a soy latte, file a complaint with the nearest HR people who will listen to me, start a protest, and write about all of it on my Tumblr page.